Welcome everybody to this Jewish Futures Unconference, and in a few minutes you're going to find out a bit of what that actually means. We have the privilege for the next few hours to be able to think together, dream together, vision together about what Jewish education, Jewish community could look like in just a mere 26 years from now, the year 5800 or 2040, depending on how you prefer to count. Jewish Futures was envisioned as a way to get together new ways of thinking, an eclectic group of people to possibly generate solutions to any given problem that the Jewish community might face. Let's see how we go today when we try and imagine the Jewish future 26 years from now. As is customary, I want to start off by thanking all the people who have helped make today possible, including our generous sponsors, the Lippman Camphor Foundation for Living Torah. Oh, hang on a second. Here's where I've got to get really tech savvy. Whoa, that's me. I hope you're all doing well. The Lippman Camphor Foundation for Living Torah, the William Davidson School of Education at JTS. Also like to thank the Covenant Foundation in particular for supporting our artist, Alicia Jo Rabbins, who you'll hear later on today, and also American Friends of Bar Ilan University for supporting the bringing of Professor David Passig to all of us. That's not me. We'd also like to, of course, thank our partners at UJA Federation New York who make this work possible and all of the work that we do at the Jewish Education Project possible. We're going to start talking today about what the future holds, and we're going to end up dreaming together about what we could possibly imagine. I know this is going to push us a bit out of our comfort zones because a lot of us are really ingrained in the present. So really, to be able to take a few hours out of our lives to think beyond the work that we do on a day-to-day basis and really to be able to dream big is a rare opportunity. We decided to call this an unconference, and there's been a whole lot of Twitter backchat about what an unconference really means. When we started researching unconferences, we found out that there was no single definition, but the one we liked most of all was the one where 50% of the time was listening to your voices. At least 50% of the time. We think we've got about a 65% ratio today, depending on the length of our speakers, but in general, we want to hear from you today. Because one thing that we've learned from gatherings like this is that the people in the room really, really matter. We want to get us started to try and imagine the future by actually hearing from someone who's a real-life futurist. Tell you the truth, I never even knew there was such a thing. And then I had the privilege of meeting Professor David Passig, and I began to appreciate and understand the type of work that he does, and hopefully today he'll be able to share just a little bit with all of us today. His full biography is in the program. I don't want to mention everything there, except to say that he lectures, he's a consultant, he works as an associate professor at Bar Ilan University. He holds a PhD in future studies from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, where his work there focused on a similar topic that we're dealing with today, albeit about the community over there. He also spent considerable time doing a lot of his work, a lot of his writing at Camp Ramah, which I think for many of us has even more special significance given what we all know about Jewish education. When Professor Passig talks to us today and opens up trying to frame what it means to look into the future, he's going to focus on a specific topic. But what I need all of you to do as we go there with him is to pay attention to his understanding of the future based on the trends that he currently sees today and his analysis of how he actually comes to understand what the future may hold. This is not a clairvoyant. This is not a prophet. This is not even a predictor in many ways. This is someone who bases his analysis of the future in a real science and a real study. So I want to firstly welcome and introduce to you all the way from Israel. He arrived yesterday, Professor David Passig. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. I've seen already a few faces I know of, probably from Camproma. So if I don't, just approach you, please approach me, okay? What I'm going to do in the next few minutes, I received something like an hour and a half, okay? Yeah, sure, David. Is this working? You sure? Okay, I'm going to touch upon a topic that is really a great concern for many of us who are in any kind of educational system. We are being bombarded in the last couple decades at least by a literature that actually says that our technologies are developing dumb kids, if you wish. Let me be blunt, okay? Many people, and you have here just a couple examples of books that really are destroying our understanding of how technology can contribute to humanity. So we are being bombarded. In the last couple decades, somehow my gut's feeling was that impossible. We know that technology during millennia was a driving force for development. Sometimes we did great and very grave mistakes, but generally speaking, technology is an amazing thing. By the way, the definition of technology is coming from, of course, two words, which is technos and logic, which is basically an ancient Greek word that says art. It's not a technical thing, it's an art. As any other art, technology is something with which humanity is expressing itself. So saying that technology is a very negative component in our educational system, in our environment, that was really striking for me. So I started working on this issue about 20 years ago, and I found something really bizarre. I found that up to now, actually, people are still being educated saying that we are being born with a certain ability, with a certain cognitive ability, and we are dying with that cognitive ability. At this time in history, we call that ability the IQ, or intelligence quotient. And we are measuring it in different ways. What you see here is a nice slide that describes how the IQ is being, measured in different places, which means that these kind of studies are saying that we are being born with a certain ability, cognitive ability, depends on where we are being born, which is mind-boggling at this point, but still, it's being measured up to date. Okay, there are even people that are measuring it based on race, which is really amazing. Actually, all of us, we go that notion that the Jewish genius. Is it true? So this is the background of what I'm going to speak about. Something unusual is happening. Whoever has kids in his house or in his classes knows that really they are much, much, much intelligent than us. Maybe they are less knowledgeable than us. But you can feel it, the way they are able to take care of new environments, of new technologies, their smart, let's say, understanding of their surrounding is really striking. So in my confusion, I found a very interesting person that somehow is not known in educational places, educational systems. His name is Professor Flynn, has a very interesting history. He was kicked out from academia here in the States and found himself in New Zealand. And during something like 3-4 decades, he stumbled upon something which was unusual at the time. Only lately it has been accepted somehow in mainstream of course of academia. And what he found is that in the last half century of the 20th century, IQ has been increased by approximately 17 points on average. And he came to this conclusion after millions of participants, if you wish, collecting data from almost any country that was willing to provide him with data. Now, after he collected data and he found that the IQ has been increased, he actually found that not only that it has been increased, but it is accelerated. That increase is accelerating almost every year, which was mind-boggling. How come IQ even is developing? We used to think that we are being born with a certain ability and we're dying with that same ability, and suddenly, in a matter of half a century, a phenomenon that never was recorded in human history. Think about, in a matter of half a century, humanity has increased its intellectual and cognitive abilities with something like 17%. Now, it took him about 3 decades to convince people that the data is not misinterpreted. And what I found really intriguing is, of course, to understand where is it coming from. And there were a lot of studies in the last decade trying to understand where is it coming from. So, by the way, he wrote a few books, so if you wish, are we going to put these slides somewhere? People will be able to see. I have put the references on each slide, so you'll be able to go and access the material. Anyways, he put a lot of studies, and a great debate started in the last decade worldwide. Where is it coming from, this acceleration of intellectual and cognitive skills? There were a lot of studies that were done. Some were trying to figure out if there is any correlation with the nutrition. Of course, our kids are eating very differently than we are. Is there any correlation? What they found is that the correlation is negative, which means what our kids are eating, actually, just take it into your consideration. When a kid is eating in the morning, a bowl of cereal, his mind is becoming like a mind of a 70-year-old person until about 11 a.m., which means for a couple hours, he's totally in a very retarded ability, if you wish. But after 11 o'clock, he's becoming really wild. That's something which was very interesting to find in those studies. There were other people that were trying to find any correlation with education, and they didn't find anything. Education can give a lot of knowledge, but not be the cause of that accelerating cognitive ability. Now, I'm coming from a different angle to try to explain the phenomena. I'm coming from the angle of technologies. And what I was trying to understand is whether these accelerating phenomena can be somehow related to our technologies, or something probably within our technologies of the last century at least. Now, I hope you understand that if we will find any correlation with technologies, that means that we will be able to understand the exact components in technologies, or at least in their interfaces, that really push that phenomena. And if we will be able to discover those causes, if you wish, then we will be able to develop those interfaces in our educational system in order not just to have that phenomena continue the way it was developing in the last half a century, but maybe even accelerate that phenomena. Now think about if we will be able, in a matter of 3 months, just with technology, the right technology, to add another 5 to 10 points to each kid. We are speaking about something very different. We are speaking about, first of all, understanding cognition in a very different way, and of course, bringing to the table an issue that in education was never debated, whether part of the educational mission is also to accelerate our cognitive abilities, not just transfer knowledge. So this is what I'm going to show you in the next 10 minutes. I'm going to pick up, I've done tens of studies trying to see what kind of technologies are to blame, if you wish, and whether we can really accelerate that if you wish, phenomena. So it is just, in a nutshell. We're not going to be able to do a lot. Now it's stuck, of course. Where is the computer? Over there? Oh, that's it. I thought it's here. All right. Okay, so what I've been doing a lot of studies with some kind of stages. The first stage was to see if with what kind of technology we will be able to improve comprehension. Okay, probably there are differences between technology. Am I able to have a skill? What technology is the best to use in educational system? The second tier was trying, of course, to enhance with those technologies or those interfaces some very specific cognitive skills. And the third tier was, of course, to try to not only improve cognitive skills to normative kids, but also to maybe genetically impaired or kids, which is mind-boggling. If we will be able to take, let's say, a person with Down syndrome, and will be able to somehow improve his ability or her ability skills, that means that we were and we are still in a paradigm that is not relevant anymore. A paradigm that a person is having a set of skills. At best, we can bring those skills into, let's say, fruition, and that's it. But accelerating the abilities of that person, that is really a new paradigm in education. It was not easy to publish those things in the last couple decades in a lot of academic venues, but I can tell you that after 2 decades, really it's something which is still debated in different places. And I'm going just to show you a list of studies we have been doing in my lab with a lot of graduate students. We were trying to ameliorate the ability to do induction and deductions, to be the ability to do mental rotations, to accelerate or improve time perception, which is a very important skill in our development as kids in different stages, etc., etc., etc. What I'm going to do, I'm going just to show you 2 or 3 studies in a little bit more details, and we'll sum up what I've been doing lately. Well, the most advanced technology or interface that we can think about, that we were able to think about just 20 years ago, was what we call nowadays virtual reality, or 3D immersive virtual worlds. So the first batch of studies we've been doing was to take that technology and go and develop worlds with which we will be able, first of all, to show that that knowledge can be transferred in a very fast manner, first of all, and then to see if with those kind of technologies, with 3D technologies, we'll be able to also improve the IQ. So this is a very nice study we've done something like 15 years ago. We have developed a virtual world that mimic the cognition of toddlers. Now, there is a huge literature trying to depict what is it exactly going on in the mind of a toddler. How does a toddler understand time, understand space, etc., etc. Tons of materials. So we have developed a world that embed within it all that knowledge that we are aware of. And the idea was to bring kindergarten teachers to see how toddlers perceive the world, their surrounding, in a matter of 10 minutes experience during something like 3 weeks, once a week. 10 minutes, once a week, 3 weeks. We have discovered that the knowledge we were able to transfer to those teachers was immense. Only courses of a year or 2 years, academic courses, were able to provide somehow the same level of understanding of the cognition of toddlers. That was really amazing, because if you can do it with those kind of things, we could do it in different other kind of knowledge. The other thing was we have simulated in a 3D world dyslexia. Now we know that about 20% of our kids are going with some kind of dyslexia. There are a lot of different kinds of dyslexia. So we have developed a 3D world that simulate about 10 different kinds of dyslexia. And we brought teachers to see how dyslexic kids interact with their surrounding. That was amazing to see how teachers, in a matter of, again, about 10 minutes a week, about 3 weeks, they were able to observe and to absorb knowledge that only years of studies are able to do. That was the first tier. I'm just giving you two samples, two ideas. Now we went through a second tier. Are we able to enhance cognitive skills that are being measured by IQ tests, whatever it is? And there is a lot of debate around what is it exactly our IQ. But nowadays this is the standard measure, so we are using it. So we have developed 3D worlds in which we try to enhance the deductions and induction skills. Very basic and important skills in order to continue and learn in our life. And in a matter of 3 months, once a week, 5 minutes, we were able to raise about between 15 to 20% the scores of different kinds of kids we brought into those kind of studies. In a matter of 3 months, once a week, 5 minutes of experience. I take you into another issue. This is really something unusual. We took Down syndrome teenagers. Now, one of the most striking things with Down syndrome kids is that they don't have the perception of time, of past, present, and future. And again, we have developed a virtual world, a 3D immersive world, with headsets and a lot of goggles, etc., we were able, again, in 3 months, about 7 minutes, once a week, we were able to raise their ability to understand time in matters that we didn't see any kind of educational, let's say, training that was able to do that in that amount of time. Well, I can go on and go on and go on. I'll give you just the last one. You know, in Israel we have a very interesting debate. After the wave of immigrants from Ethiopia, when all those kids that their parents came from Ethiopia, when they went through a procedure of intellectual understanding or analysis, most of those kids were considered to be at the verge of being retarded in IQ tests. So for a few years, a lot of those kids were diverted into special education, which was really, myself, I was going with a lot of discomfort, saying that kids that are from Ethiopian origins are all retarded. Come on, guys. But all the academics were showing us that their scores. You could not, 2 minutes. That's a lot. Thank you. Anyway, so what we did, we have developed, again, virtual worlds within which we have exercised with kids what we call analogies, because analogies is the most important, let's say, pattern with which human beings are thinking and are being measured all across different tests. And we were trying to see if within 3 months, again, once a week, we will be able at least to bring those kids to the level of normative kids, of regular Israeli kids. It was shocking to see that in a matter of 3 months, we brought them as if they were Israelis without any kind of origins or cultural or racial, whatever you want to call it. So we did it again and again in different places. Since I don't have much time, you have there, this is the last study we have been doing. We are developing now IQ tests within virtual worlds in order to see whether maybe the tests are to blame. And we're doing a lot of interesting things and being published. What I would like to really finish with is that virtual reality is only the beginning of the interfaces we are going to see around us in the next few decades. I'm speaking about educational system. When I started using virtual reality, a headset used to cost about $250,000, $300,000. Nowadays, a virtual, full immersive headset costs about $500 to, at the best, $2,000. And it's becoming down and down and down and down. However, we are now at the verge of a new technology that you better be aware of it. It's what we call brain-machine interface or brain-computer interface. Okay, these are headsets that transfer brain waves into the computer, and instead of manipulating information within the computer, you just think, and your thinking is transferred to the computer. At this point, technology is a little bit expensive. If you see, this is my lab. At this point, just by the way, 5 years ago, this is what used to be a headset. It cost about $100,000, such a thing. Nowadays, you can buy this headset from between $500 to $2,000. Okay, but if you really want to see the future, this is the future. This headset cost about $100. A brain-computer interface with which at the beginning, of course, you're doing really very small things. But in a matter of 1 decade, 2 decades at best, this is what you're going to see in your educational systems. Kids coming with those kind of strips in their head with which they will be able to transfer their thoughts immediately to the computer. This is the future. And we are setting the ground or the background, saying that these technologies are not just aid tools to our educational system. We are speaking about having a new kind of a fire in our hands. We really don't understand it. At best, at this point of time, we think we can enhance the IQ of our kids. But I truly believe, that in a matter of 1 decade, 2 decades, that at best, we will be able to see that our kids will be using those kind of things to generate a very different kind of thoughts, a very different kind of ideas, a very different kind. Just think about how humanity started developing prose. And this is what we are thinking about. Those kids that are in our educational system are going to be able to do things that are imaginable at this point of time. And we better understand it and bring it into the educational system and not leave it outside our classrooms. Thank you very much.